In this video, we're going to get into a conversation about printing using Webdirect as part of the FileMaker 16 platform. Now, this video is pretty much for your beginner and intermediate folks. However, if you're a senior developer and you haven't played with printing yet on Webdirect, you might want to take 5 minutes and watch this video, because the scripted behavior is not entirely what you expect it to be. Now, first off, printing requires a very precise process where FileMaker takes a layout and renders it with a very high degree of precision, complete with high resolution and all the kinds of things that you expect from a modern application that prints. FileMaker Pro prints, FileMaker Go prints, FileMaker Webdirect has not historically printed. Now, printing was added with FileMaker 16. So what did this require? Well, FileMaker actually had to build the printing engine into FileMaker Server. And of course you would say, well, yeah, we've been asking for that for a long time. Well, yes, we have. And it's interesting, but there's also some interesting side effects, and some of which are going to be a surprise to a lot of you. So first off, we built a FileMaker Webdirect training tool here specific about PDF generation and printing. And largely the issue to understand is that generating PDFs and printing are basically two sides of the same coin. Really, on Mac and Windows you don't see it so much, but on Webdirect, when we go to print in Webdirect, so here is a web browser, I'm running in Chrome here, and I'm looking at the same file. When we tell Webdirect to print, of course the browser can't print because it has no clue about how to print beautiful high-resolution layouts from FileMaker, so the FileMaker server has to print. So we can go up under here, we look down here to File, and whoop, there is no print command. So the print command is only accessible from scripts, right? So you script it. So you go over here to FileMaker, and you write a script like up here. We write a script, and it says print this, and it's basically set up to print on my HP printer. The print setup option cannot be performed with dialog. So basically it's kind of, you set it up right here. These settings right here are saved. And then the FileMaker server uses these settings to generate the document. So I have the dialog off here again. I've got it all saved. I'm going to move this down here. I'm going to come to Webdirect once again. I'm going to say, go to scripts, and then run the print job. And what happens is that instead of actually printing, it actually generates a high resolution PDF for us, which then itself can be printed. So it's kind of like this two-step process where before we would say print and then paper would start shooting out of the printer. This is a print, but actually it becomes a PDF. And then of course we can tell it to print if we want. So pretty straightforward. Now I'm going to close this tab here. Now keep in mind that the pop-up blocker that a lot of people use, if you have a pop-up blocking turned on, Webdirect doesn't like that. Webdirect likes to pop windows. So in Chrome, it's real easy to say allow pop-ups from this specific server. And so that allows pop-ups from a specific FileMaker Webdirect server, for example, and maybe not from the rest of the internet. So that's pretty cool with Chrome. So understand that the printing or the PDF generation is actually done on the FileMaker server itself, and then it sends the print document down through the network to the browser, right? Pretty straightforward. So you go, well, that's cool, that's great. So what we're going to do here just for fun is we're going to go ahead and turn off the print options right here. And so I'm going to save that, I'm going to hide it. We're going to go ahead and select script, and we're going to run our print. And notice that once again, it does the same thing. So the dialog that you would pop up to specify whether it's the current record being printed or the found set of records being printed, etc., you don't see any of that. It's handled when you set up the script. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Now, of course, that's not a showstopper. Something else to keep in mind, and we've talked about this in our training videos, in our course, etc., and that is that the fonts that we use here have to be installed on the FileMaker server, right? So you're thinking about this, you're going, so if I have the fancy gee whiz Adobe typeface in here, if that is not installed on the FileMaker server, then FileMaker will substitute the font. The substitution might look okay or it might look hideous. It depends on the font and what's going on. That being said, if you have an older Windows server and you're running this, that Windows server is going to have the fonts installed on it. Just because they're on your client machine where the browser is, that has no bearing upon the print job and the fonts available to the FileMaker server. So understand that's an important consideration. Now, additional issues come into play here, and we talk about this in our tool here, our training tool. We really talk about manually creating PDFs, scripting the creation of a PDF, and the issues that come into this. And so what we do here is in this training tool, you can download this and play with this and look at this, but what we do is we talk about how FileMaker Pro manually can save a PDF and the attributes and the benefits, etc. Then we talk about FileMaker Go. These are here for reference. Then we talk about how Webdirect works, right? This is the process of manually saving a PDF. And down here, if we scroll down a bit, you can actually see sample images of this whole process. So I'm going to jump over here to Pro because it always is a little bit nicer in Pro. I'm going to click this and we get a pop-up. So what we have under here is if we select View and we come back over here, we say View, then we have the option as View as a PDF. And so that's what we see over here. And so what we do is if we select this, what we've done is we've taken screenshots to show you the options that you have. And so here, because we're viewing a PDF, we can specify the range of records, etc., the percentages. And then, of course, it creates that tab that we saw when we did a print job. Pretty straightforward. And then, of course, we have the option to save it to any location that we want because we're manually performing the process. So in this explanation, we've made a differentiation between manually saving a PDF and scripting it. So if I go to Next right here, then we can look at some of the different behaviors as we start to script this. And so what you're going to notice is the biggest issue is that you might give it a path on where you want to save it. The security limitations that revolve around a browser are going to limit where a PDF can be saved. Also where you can export a file with Webdirect. Pretty much you can give it a path and it's going to ignore it because at the end of the day the browser can only save to the downloads folder automatically. So you get this dialog here at the end to download the PDF. It's going to manually ask you to save it. And when you save it, it's going to save it into the downloads folder that is specified as part of the preferences for the browser. So normally that's buried in the user folder in the download section. I like to change my browsers to always download to the desktop so I can find the files I'm looking for easily. But it's only going to download to that location, wherever that is. So that's kind of an interesting little caveat there. So you don't have the flexibility of saving it to some temporary directory or some other place. Moving along, this issue has to do with the naming of the PDF and the issues that go into naming it. Once again, we can dive into this, but it's pretty straightforward. You can go through the examples here and play with that a little bit. I'm going to hit the next item here, which is email attachments. So this is really interesting. The short version of this is that when you generate a PDF with Webdirect, the script will run in its entirety. And at the end of the script executing, the generation of the PDF or the download of the PDF to the browser will occur. So if you actually execute the PDF generation pretty high up in the list, and then 4 or 5 steps later, you run an email and you want to attach that PDF to the email, it won't work because of the timing differences with Webdirect. So historically with the FileMaker platform, you start a script, it runs from top to bottom, and it's pretty much a given fact, like set in concrete. The scripts will execute top to bottom, and it's a very rare occasion where script steps won't execute in the exact order provided. Well, with Webdirect and PDF generation, the PDF coming down to the Webdirect client is always at the end. It doesn't matter if you have 100 steps and the 5th step is generate the PDF doesn't come down till the script is over, which means if you had an email that needed to leverage it, it's never going to happen. So if you're using Webdirect and you want to, like, say, for example, send an invoice out to a user, and it's going to be an email, and the PDF attachment is the invoice document, for example, you cannot script that to work in the normal way that you would with Pro and Go. You're going to have to write a script with PSOS, right? Perform script on server, where you're going to direct the server to do it for you. Because when the server runs a script, or Go runs a script, or Pro runs a script, those scripts always execute in the proper order. Once again, pretty reliable. Been that way for 30 years. However, with Webdirect, it doesn't really execute in order. The PDF always hangs to the end. So instead of relying upon a script that's running through Webdirect, which is kind of on the server but is kind of interacting with the browser, you tell it to run completely on the server. Now luckily, when FileMaker built the printing and PDF generation for Webdirect into the server, they also gave us access to it for server-side scripts. So PSOS and SASE, etc. can leverage the built-in PDF generation. So FileMaker built this into the product, but they didn't just give it to us in Webdirect, they gave it to us in other areas as well. It's really great they did that because otherwise we'd be hosed, because we need PSOS in order to generate these PDF jobs. Now historically, for those of you who have been very clever in the FileMaker platform and you're ninja senior level developers, etc., and you know who you are, the way we would get print jobs and PDF jobs done historically was that you'd have a FileMaker server, and on the server itself, or running on a machine next to it, would be a copy of FileMaker Pro that would then activate and do the printing and PDF generation for you. And relying upon FileMaker Pro to run reliably generally was okay, but it's an extra piece of software, and certainly in my opinion not as reliable as just running it through PSOS. So by getting rid of FileMaker Pro and running the PDF generation through PSOS, we eliminate an entire software application that's running, and of course every piece of technology that you put into something is another source of a potential failure. What if FileMaker Pro crashes for some reason? I mean, it does happen. So your entire print system would be offline. Well, if we get rid of FileMaker Pro and we use PSOS, which is generally pretty reliable, then that improves the overall reliability of the product and our custom application. I'm not going to get into this too much more. However, we have a scripting example that's built in here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here to examples, and you can play with this. And obviously we have some spelling typos in here that have to be fixed. So in this sample file, in this one right here, I'm going to pop this up. I have the SMTP information for an RCC SMTP server. And so this is the settings where we will use a email command in FileMaker to send the email out directly to an SMTP server. We're not using a local email client. Sending email through a local mail client these days is kind of a questionable proposition in terms of reliability. So basically the two reliable ways of sending emails out of FileMaker is one, SMTP server, or two, using a plugin like 360works email plugin, which is a great product. So we have the settings in here, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to demonstrate this briefly for you right here. So we have the idea we can save a single layout which has a floor plan on it. I'm going to save it to the desktop, and it saves it, and I have this container one right here. So then I can do the same thing right here, and so we have two containers. Then what we can do is actually run the script locally here in Pro and combine them, and they're both combined right here on my local computer. So once again, we're doing this in Pro. Container 1, which is spelled incorrectly, container 2. Obviously my team needs to run a spell checker on this. That would be fantastic. So here is both containers, both PDFs. I can make this smaller for you, and you can see that we have a 2-page PDF, pretty straightforward. Now if we want to take a look at the script here, I'm going to go to layout mode. I'm going to lose the inspector. I'm going to double click this. It's going to tell us that we are running the script save as PDF to desktop. So if I pull up my script workspace here, save as PDF to desktop. So this is what this is right here. PDF to desktop. It's all pretty straightforward. But it runs effectively locally. So what I've done is I made sure that my, I'm going to change an alternate email I have right here for me to receive. Vacation. And I'm going to run a button right here, which will run it locally on this machine, and it will send the email out to my mail client right here. So then our PDF shows up right here, and we have our sample PDF, and if I double click it, once again we have our 2-page PDF. Pretty straightforward. Now if I run this script exactly as is with Webdirect, it's going to fail because at the end of the day we cannot generate a PDF and attach it and have it all work together in an automated fashion with Webdirect. I mean, someone might be able to get it to work, but it'd be a heck of a hack. And I'm not even sure how it would work, to be honest with you. It'd be tremendous. And why bother when it's much more simply done and frankly much faster done if you just tell the FileMaker server to do it for you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here, go to my mail, I'm going to go ahead and delete this out, move it down here, and then I'm going to run the same script with Webdirect, right, and tell it to do it. And so it's actually performing the same script that we ran in Pro locally, but it's telling the script to run through perform script on server on the other end. And so it just did it. And so if I go over here and I wait, there it is. And so this is a sample file that we've cooked up for you. You can look at it. Obviously, you can take this script, hack it, make it better. I'm going to go into the script workspace right here. And what you'll notice is that that button calls the script email both containers. However, Platform System 4 is Webdirect. So if it's not Webdirect, it runs this routine here, which is basically running it locally in Pro, or would run it locally in Go. Else it runs it through Webdirect. And what happens is we check to make sure the SMTP settings are set, and then we tell it to run the script, perform script on server right here. This is the critical secret sauce right here. And we run this script right here, which is right below it. So this script here is the one that everything calls, and if it's Webdirect, then it actually skips everything and it runs the script over here. And this basically goes through a process where it creates the PDFs, it saves them into the temporary path on the FileMaker server, and then it generates a second PDF. And on the second PDF, then it appends it to the first PDF. So as part of this demo, we've kind of gone the extra mile of showing off the fact you can create a PDF, but also then append multiple PDFs together to create one PDF, and then to shoot that out via email. So this sample file is going to be included as part of this video. This is all getting rolled up and added to our FileMaker Pro video training course, which is a really awesome course, and we have stuff like this in it all over the place. And of course, for those of you out there in YouTube land who don't have our course, then this will be one of the videos that you get for free. But trust me, you're going to want our full video course. It's good stuff. So that's it for Richard Carlton here at RC Consulting and LearningFileMaker.com. We'll catch you next week.